Android users, you can now have TYT in the palm of your hand. Our TYT app is available for download in the Google Play Store. Just go to tyt.com/app to find out more.
Fox News is known to go after undocumented immigrants. They have essentially painted them all as members of MS-13, people that are dangerous, people who serve a threat to US citizens. But recently on Laura Ingraham's program on Fox News, she decided to not only talk about the threat of undocumented immigrants, but her perceived threat of legal immigrants as well. Take a look.
Because in some parts of the country, it does seem like the America that we know and love doesn't exist anymore. Massive demographic changes have been foisted upon the American people. And they're changes that none of us ever voted for and most of us don't like. From Virginia to California, we see stark examples of how radically, in some ways, the country has changed. Now, much of this is related to both illegal and, in some cases, legal immigration that, of course, progressives love.
So, look, we warned the audience before that the Trump administration is not only targeting undocumented immigrants in the United States, but they're also going after documented immigrants, people who are here legally. Stephen Miller is pushing for a proposal that would essentially penalize immigrants who are here with a green card if they've ever used any type of government program, even if they have a disabled child who needs some, government help. They also plan on going through the documents of individuals who have become citizens to decide whether or not there was any fraud committed in those documents, and then they would essentially overturn the citizenship of these individuals. And the Trump administration has been so competent in dealing with immigrants who seek asylum in the United States. I'm sure that they would handle that situation perfectly. Look, this is a complete and utter, disaster if you believe in the real point of America. This is horrible on so many different levels, but I just want to quickly point to one other thing. And maybe this is hitting below the belt, but I don't care at this point. Laura Ingraham did do one wonderful thing. She adopted children from other countries. So she has 2 children from Russia and she has 1 child from Guatemala. So she took a child from Guatemala who needed a home and became a mother to that child, which is great. But she made that Guatemalan, who is not white, an American citizen. So how would your child feel once that your child grows up and understands who you really are as a person? How would that child feel watching that segment and hearing what you just said about massive demographic changes? I mean, it's just disgusting.
And Anna, she said nobody voted for this and you didn't have a choice in it. Well, we didn't vote on you bringing kids from Guatemala to America either. Now, we as progressives love that you did that and appreciate that you did that. Whether it's Guatemala or otherwise, is to take a child who needs a home and give one is a terrific thing to do. But we didn't vote on it. And that's okay, we don't have to vote on it. And by the way, in a sense, we did vote on it because we allow that kind of adoption. And we did vote on immigration because the legal immigration you're now arguing against is all passed by laws that we in fact did vote on.
Yep.
Now, when you talk about amnesty, we also voted on that in a sense because we voted for Ronald Reagan, which you tell us is great, the person who did amnesty, not what you guys call amnesty, pathway to citizenship, etc. Actual amnesty was Ronald Reagan. The people that voted for him voted for amnesty and partly voted for the laws that you are now saying we didn't vote for and didn't want. Apparently you did.
And also, I mean, first of all, Laura Ingraham makes me like Ann Coulter. I mean, that's pretty incredible. And give her like a hug, right? Because
I don't know about that.
Yeah, well, yeah. No, but there's also the issue of, yes, her being two-faced about her family situation, which in a position of having such a massive audience, being on Fox, having a growing audience, having the demographic you have, you could actually use that for good. Now
not interested in that.
Goes in, not interested because the demographic of the ratings segment, but also she's also instilling that kind of additional sort of from the Trump administration, from the mouthpiece of what's going on against people that live here, instilling fear in people that her audience, Fox's audience, might be engaged with. Maybe other people have adopted people. Maybe they have relatives. Maybe they've been a part of the fabric of a changing America, which is a good thing, which is a progressive thing, which is a positive thing economically and socially and culturally. culturally for a long time.
I mean, it's all about the paranoia of the others. And I really want you guys to remember the phrase that she used, massive demographic changes. That's important because she is gonna attempt to walk back her statements after she received some backlash.
On the positive side, I do think that like when Laura needs to go on vacation, they will just roll in a giant whistle, a dog whistle, and just like blow a fan through it and for like, however long the show's for like an hour, right? That's how long the show is, and that's great. And it's just interchangeable because Fox News right now is just, the president doesn't have a mouthpiece. He is a dog whistle to white people appealing to their most base lizard brain racist fears about a country that never actually existed in the first place. This whole idea of getting back to like some kind of like white America of yesteryear doesn't exist, okay? Because we are on actually colonized land. And on top of that, Irish people weren't white, okay? So like, what are we talking about? This is, our nation is, and this sounds, I've never been more patriotic, you guys, than like under Trump. Like, can we all agree? I've been like, oh God, now I gotta defend. But like, our nation is aspirational, man. Like, we're trying to actually become a more perfect union, as they say, grow freedoms, grow equality, and make this a place where, yeah, we can abide by laws and norms, of course, but that actually is inclusive and not fascist.
One of the things that I'm coming across a lot on online forums, and I find it fascinating, and it's like a dark hole that you end up falling into and you kind of wish you never went there.
Indeed.
But there's an increasing group of people, I don't know what the statistics are, but there are people who are concerned that whites are becoming a minority, that they do need to stick together, they need to have as many children as they can, they need to repopulate the United States, because their fear is if we become the minority, then we will be treated as viciously as minorities have been treated by white Americans, historically speaking. And it's just you're right, it's this weird lizard brain fear of the others. They're gonna be vicious to us, they're gonna come after us, they're gonna do all these terrible things to us. These are people who are coming into the country, or have been in the country, by the way, who want to be productive members of society, who haven't caused any damage. I mean, study after study looks into immigrant communities in the United States to compare them to other non-immigrant communities to see if there's an uptick in violence when immigrants settle. And case after case shows that that is not what's happening. MS-13 developed here in the United States. Like, let's keep it real. That MS-13 wasn't imported into the United States. MS-13 was exported from the United States. But I mean, this is all information that doesn't sit well with the aging white demographic that watches Fox News, that loves this paranoia.
A couple of small points, and then I think probably the most important point in why she actually outed herself and said this. Small points are, look, the Aryan Nation is a giant gang within America, particularly in the American prison system. Perhaps, maybe the largest gang in the prison system. If we wanted to talk about that and demagogue on that and talk about, oh my God, Aryan Nation, oh, they're killing your kids, they're killing people, they're doing this. You could find hundreds of examples of murder and mayhem, et cetera, from Aryan Nation. But they're started in the United States. MS-13 started in the United States. So why pick MS-13 instead of Aryan Nation? Because you want to demagogue against a particular minority group.
No, but also, I'm sorry, Cenk, but like point of clarification, the like largest growing number of domestic terrorism acts have been by white nationalist organizations and like anti-government militias, exactly, and that is well documented. So again, like we should be focusing on groups like the Aryan Nation, but we're not, and it's upsetting also that sort of mainstream liberal outlets are not either, very infrequently.
And it's also there are, and we've talked about this before, there are economic reasons why it is sort of easy for Laura Ingraham to say the stuff that she says to the audience of Fox. There are actual economic things going on in this country we can actually focus on and we can try and fix, and they have to do with actually progressive economics, and they don't have to do with vilifying a group of people that isn't actually producing anything negative on any statistic in any sort of aggregate way to make a group of white people who are 76% of the population feel, okay about themselves.
Immigrants pay into our system, and they pay taxes. They get taxes taken out, and they don't necessarily get to take advantage. I mean, like the amount that they take advantage of our
Social
security systems, right? Or which would be
sales tax,
right? All the things that they actually are taken out of their paychecks, and what happens? Okay, yes, maybe they go to emergency room services once in a while. Okay.
So look, and we never learn from history. It's not just slavery and the civil rights era and Jim Crow and all that. It's also the discrimination we did against, as Francesca was pointing out earlier, against the Irish and the Italians. It's always the others. So when are you going to ever learn that the others one day become Irish and Italians who are like the most American people now, according to popular lore, etc. One day, maybe if we keep going, it'll be Latinos doing it to other people, going, oh my God, well, Latinos are obviously American, but the others. Right? How many times do we have to see this movie? So now the most important point is the spectrum of the dog whistle that Francesca was referring to. So in the past, the Republicans used the Southern strategy, and that was a dog whistle. And so that was a way of appealing to, at the time during the civil rights era, the indisputably racist people in the South who wanted to segregate the races and have water fountains for what they called colored people, et cetera, et cetera. You know the whole history of it. And Nixon and Buchanan and all those guys ran the Southern strategy, and it was a dog whistle. They didn't have to say, hey, we're against the N-word. They didn't have to say we're against black people. People knew exactly what they were talking about when they said code words like states' rights. Okay, so now we have the alt-right today having a debate about whether they should go have a rally this weekend and should they wear the Nazi armbands or should they not wear the Nazi armbands? Or is that too obvious of a bullhorn, if you will, right?
Well, we wouldn't know if they didn't wear the armbands. I mean, they would pull,
not
fast
their
one on
behavior.
us.
Nothing,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, and so in between the armbands and the states' rights code word is a big spectrum. And what Donald Trump did was he opened the door for more of people on that spectrum to be clearer and clearer. Because apparently the rest of the Republicans were being too subtle. So Trump just said, no, the immigrants are criminals and rapists. And then he called them subhuman, and then he said they were it was an infestation, and he questioned whether Barack Obama was really an American, and the list goes on and on of all the different things he did that were no longer dog whistles. That gave, Laura Ingraham has actually been doing this for decades. She used to be more subtle, but because of Trump, everybody is used to stop using the dog whistle, go further on the spectrum to a human whistle.
And I think
so that's why, just to finish the thought, Laura then comes out and says, okay, I'm not gonna be subtle anymore. I'm gonna say demographic changes. So because demographic doesn't mean anything but race. That's exactly what it means.
And I think it's default the Republican strategy. I mean, it is a revival of the Southern strategy. And if Republicans are not speaking out for their party, this is their de facto strategy. And it's the first time, and it's well documented, that Romney and McCain and other previous Republican candidates did not do this kind. They did not specifically pander to white fear like Trump has done. And it's working for them. And so if you don't stand up and say, no, I don't believe this is not our party, then this is de facto your racist strategy. And so 2012, right, what was the takeaway when Obama won for a second term was we have to actually have an inclusive party. Hey, there are Latinos who are conservatives. What do you know? Hey, there are, African Americans who are conservatives. What do you know? Maybe we should actually make this an inclusive party. And they didn't.
No,
they made
did the exact opposite.
Right turn.
Yeah. So I do want to get to Laura Ingraham's attempt at walking back her statements. And so the following day on her show, she addressed this. She didn't address the criticism that she's been getting. She actually addressed the number of white supremacists in the United States, white supremacist organizations in the United States who were applauding her and essentially spreading her content far and wide. So here's what she had to say to that.
A message to those who are distorting my views, including all white nationalists, and especially one racist freak whose name I will not even mention. You do not have my support, you don't represent my views, and you are antithetical to the beliefs I hold dear. The purpose of last night's angle was to point out that the rule of law, meaning secure borders, is something that used to bind our country together. And despite what some may be contending, I made explicitly clear that my commentary had nothing to do with race or ethnicity, but rather a shared goal of keeping America safe and her citizens safe and prosperous.
Nothing to do with race or ethnicity, even though I very specifically said massive demographic changes. What does that mean? What does massive demographic changes mean?
She didn't address that because she cannot address that.
Yeah.
2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.